brought to you by Lister Pros TV, streaming from Tempe, Arizona. And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Morning Facebook, Jordan Nielsen here, host of Real Estate Pros on Lister Pros TV. And today we're in Tucson, and we have a very special guest, Spirit Messingham of Tierra Antigua. Welcome to the show, Spirit. Thanks for coming in, taking time out of your busy day. And so cool. So first off, we'll give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself, how you landed in real estate, and just a quick little background on why you got into real estate and how you got here.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's an honor that you guys even know who I am. I'm a third-generation realtor. I've been doing this for 10 years in Tucson. My mom and my grandmother were both brokers, so that just means that I should know better and maybe have a real job.
Or it's in your DNA, right?
I try to get out of it. Yeah, I had a Fortune 500 sales job for 10 years, focusing just on sales. It's kind of like, clubbing baby seals over the head. And I got tired of the hypocrisy. So that's one of the things I really like now. I've got my own PLLC, my own little company that I run. And not having to drink the Kool-Aid and run my business the way I want to means a lot to me.
Yeah. So previously, this episode is called the Jerry Maguire approach. So let's talk a little bit about the Jerry Maguire approach. So what does that mean?
Well, the Jerry Maguire approach, at least for me, is right now the emphasis is a lot of people want to have teams and want to have a lot of people like a conveyor belt. And the client is the product. And no one likes feeling like a cattle in a chute. So my approach is I want every one of my clients to feel like they're my only client. And a lot of times, I might have 10 or 12 in escrow. They've commented like, "Oh, I thought I was your only client." And what that means is you make yourself available. It's no secret. Realtors, I feel, in our industry have kind of got a black eye, and I want to try and raise that bar up. And you do that by giving each client attention, replying to their emails, their phone calls, the same day. Little things like that start to add up.
So your production. What's your production year to date? And you do everything yourself.
That's one of the things where, again, when you had the team, what happens is they don't have the experience that I do. So after 10 years, I do everything myself. I even still install my own for sale signs. I'm at $16.5 million, and in Tucson residential sales, that's a lot. That puts me in the top 1%. But the advantage from, again, the Jerry Maguire approach from my end is that as a buyer's agent, I'm in about 400 properties a year on average. And after 10 years, that gives me a plethora of experience that I can share with my clients. But I'm the one pulling the comps. I'm the one who are in the properties. I'm the one showing those properties. And when you have that conveyor belt, they have a lot of teams. They have a transaction manager. They have one person who's showing the house. Most of the time now when I deal with teams, the agent's name on the contract never met the buyer, never showed them the property, and they never did any of the paperwork. So I would argue, is that even real estate anymore? I don't know what that is. But that's not what I want to do.
Right. So you're kind of looking to raise the bar in real estate, and we know that real estate agents a lot of times will have a bad reputation by the consumer that they feel like they're overpaid or they don't do a lot. So what do you think drives that?
Absolutely, I hear it all the time. I can see it usually when I'm the look in someone's eyes when I say I'm a realtor. They act like I'm the kid. I'm the kid at the mall who's going to chase them down with a Dracar and a used cars salesperson, that kind of a thing. And it's hard. You have to take each person and give them the care and show them. It's kind of like an abused animal that maybe had a rough go at the first time. You have to be extra patient and you have to earn their trust. And so that's one of the things that I never forget working with so many buyers and sellers, that I have to start over each and every time and earn their trust.
So how do you accomplish that? So you may have 10 to 15 homes in escrow and you do everything yourself, but at the same time you're making every single customer feel like they're their only one. So how do you do that? And also, how do you do that without a website?
Yeah, I know. I'm old school. I've got an email and a cell phone that's about it. I've never had a website. I don't need one. It's kind of ironic. My goal was never to be the top production. It was never to sell a whole bunch. It's just something I enjoy doing. In the process over the last 10 years, I became very good at it. I don't think the high production, the 16 million and change this year, was ever the goal. I know it was never the goal, but it ended up being the outcome by giving each person the attention. I'm a classic type A. I like to keep busy. If I was just in real estate for the money, I would have already retired. I'd be done right now. But it's not about the money, and I think it shows up when people start to work with me. They realize that I actually do care. That being said, the Jerry Maguire approach is never forget that you represent others. And I know that sounds very simple. You'd be shocked at how many agents, even brokers, that I have to remind them that when they're making decisions, I'm like, whoa, you haven't even presented this to your client yet. You represent someone else here. And I think that's something that gets lost in the wayside.
So a lot of, a lot of agents that may be focused on what's in it for them, or what are they doing, or
I'm not
on them.
Yeah, I'm not giving a black eye to our industry. It's a very hard industry. It's one of those things where I personally wish there was more education. I wish the bar for entry was higher. I've got my undergrad. Golly, it's been 20 years. I graduated magna cum laude. For example, my wife is a real estate attorney. She's a partner here with Farang and Medcoff. So I really understand liability, and I understand what my fiduciary duties are to my clients. Most agents don't even know what their fiduciary duties are. And if you don't know what they are, how could you possibly live up to them?
So let's talk about the fiduciary responsibilities for an agent that may be watching this.
Well, they better know what they are. They're loyalty, obedience, disclosure, credibility, confidentiality, accounting, and then reasonable care and diligence. Those are the fiduciary duties that we have to both buyers and sellers, and it's something that I don't take lightly.
So a lot of real estate agents, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned you don't make any phone calls. A lot of real estate agents, they'll get into the business, but they don't really know how to drive their business, so then they ultimately just kind of rely on phone calls. You almost have it like, you do a whole lot of production, but you don't have a website. You don't make phone calls, so where does your business come from?
If you're
doing that much business in
you're right.
air.
If there was a to-do, like how to be a successful agent, my blueprint would be what not to do.
Right.
And I get it. In today's industry, if I was a brand new agent, I would join a team, but I would be thirsty to learn the whole process. And I feel part of the problem is that on some of these teams, and not all teams, it's a conveyor belt. So that agent only learns the one little part, whether they're a dedicated buyer's agent or the transaction manager or whatever it is, they only learn that one section. And when you mean by outbound calls, there's teams right now where they actually have a telecenter. I can think of a couple teams off the top of my head. They've got 10 to 15 agents that just make phone calls, outbound calls all day long. They call expired sales. They call canceled transactions. I don't make a single. The only calls I make every day are to my clients. I return their phone calls. And I've been lucky enough to keep very busy. And I think part of it is when you treat people the right way and you genuinely do a good thing, they're eager to say, oh my gosh, if you're going to buy or sell, you should call Spirit. He's going to take care of you. And I think I know that's more important to me, but I think it actually ends up being a nice marketing tool because I don't spend any time doing blast emails. I don't do the sphere of influence. I don't do any of that. I literally spend my time with the clients I represent, and they seem to appreciate it.
Awesome. Wow, that is definitely interesting of how you've been able to grow such a successful business. So if there's a new real estate agent that's watching this and they're trying to figure out like how can they grow their business, obviously it takes time. You've been in the business for 10 years. What did that first year look like for you?
It was brutal.
Yeah?
I got my license in 2007, arguably the worst time. We were just entering the Great Recession, and it's probably arguably the worst housing market since the Great Depression. But the nice thing about that is it really taught me how to work with clients. I mean, at that point, I had like one client at a time. So it's kind of like just, juggling one ball. One client like for an entire month. And it really made me appreciate what I have. I think I've got a distinct advantage in that I was born and raised on a farm in Iowa. And so one of those things growing up, I didn't know it was a big deal. But having that work ethic, that's something that I don't even think about. But I get constantly told by other agents, brokers, title, lenders. They're all like, oh my gosh, when do you sleep? I enjoy keeping busy. I mean, what else would I do? But that's all part of the Jerry Maguire approach. That works for me because I have that energy and I have that work ethic.
Yeah, and it comes through even in this interview. I can feel how...
Kind of radiates.
Yeah.
You need a little sunscreen, don't you?
I get it. I need some sunscreen here. But one thing that's important, if as an agent and doing that much production and making every customer feel like they're your only one, you got to have a solid system behind you that helps to manage all of this process. So talk to us about what systems you use.
This is getting a little embarrassing. I I don't have a system.
You
In
got
fact,
a file.
yeah, I've got old school. I keep everything as per the regulations and rules. I actually keep everything for 5 years. I keep everything. I've got everything I've ever done the last 10, but I keep both a hard copy and a copy on my computer. I was just telling a good friend of mine, a financial planner, and he's like, "Hey, let me send you a Outlook on your phone, a calendar invite." I said, "Don't bother. I don't even use that." He's like, "Wait a minute, you don't use a calendar?" And I'm like, "I've got one big desk calendar at my house, and that's all I use."
How about GPS to your house? Do you use GPS?
I do use the navigation. I do. Although I found I'm
like,
working
man.
when you're in 400 houses a year after 10 years in Central, I really know it like the back of my hand. And up north where I do quite a bit of business, but I still punch it all in because, I wouldn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
But I don't use any kind of calendar system or Outlook. Most of it is just up there.
Dang.
Yeah. In the void.
So you know it's in the void. Is that what your wife calls it?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
man, what?
yeah, she...
you have this desk calendar. Is it like one of those monthly desk calendars?
Yeah, it's big. It's huge. It barely fit on this table, and that's all that I use. And she, my wife is an angel. She's very understanding and patient with me, and so that helps a lot.
I'd love to see a picture of you in the morning going to see what's going on for the day. You're looking over this big calendar thing.
Yep, that's
awesome.
pretty much it.
That's awesome. So any other pieces of advice that you give to newer agents?
Wow. Where to begin?
Because we know we talked a lot about communication and education.
Yep. So
actually, that's kind of part of with the customer. So
I would say even for the agents going on the other side of it, those are the two most important things that they could possibly do is get educated. When you don't know something, it's okay to say, I don't know. I think for a lot of agents, we're supposed to be the professional. We're the experts. And when clients ask them a question, when they don't know, they just tell them what they think. I don't do that. If I don't know, I say, well, that's a good question. I don't know. And then I go find out. And the nice thing about doing that is after 10, 20, 30 years, you really have a nice base of information and knowledge. So try and keep educated, keep up on, for example, this year in February, we had a new purchase contract. We were one of the last states to get remove warranted items. And that's a big deal because before, for sellers, there were certain items that were warranted that no longer are. Technically, I'm sure you've heard the term as is, right?
Right.
Everyone knows about an as is addendum.
Yeah.
We don't even have it anymore because technically every property now is sold in the current condition it's in when you make your offer. Agents need to know that because we need to tell our clients that. We still have the inspection period. You can still ask for items, of course, but there are no more warranted items. So staying up on the that change is the only constant in a lot of fields, but that's certainly true in real estate. I mean, my mom and my grandmother were doing this. Forget about it. There was no internet. The properties they showed were literally whatever they were representing. And so a lot has changed.
Wow. And for an agent that does high volume, what have been the keys to success on listing a home? So what are the big pieces that maybe real estate agents overlook in selling a home?
Well, like I said, number one is never forget it's not your decision. It's the client's decision. So I like to present, the CMA, a comparative market analysis, and go through all that. But being a buyer's agent, I literally have my fingers on the pulse of not only what the buyers are looking for, but what the current market will yield. Right now, there's no question in Tucson it's a seller's market. Under about 300,000 in Central, there's almost no inventory. And that's one of the things that separates us from other cities. Back in the day, like us, Vegas, Phoenix were all hit really hard. A lot of REOs, that's foreclosures, a lot of short sales. But Vegas kept building all along, where we didn't. Builders stopped. So we actually have a lack of inventory. And in the 20 years, if we look at the macro, like the bigger picture, in the 20 years I've lived here, I've never seen the Tucson economy doing as well as it has. Downtown Tucson, 7 years ago,
completely.
I wouldn't even slow down my car. I wouldn't even drive through here. I'd lock the doors and keep going. I wouldn't come down here at night, And it's changed so much. And so all joking aside, our economy is doing really well. And because of that, Raytheon's looking to hire about 2,000 people this year, one of our top employers. The U of A, another one of our top employers, of course, is always expanding. And then even things like Caterpillar, which is has a headquarters here in downtown. That's 600 executives. Uh-huh. When I heard they were coming, it started off around $90K. And I thought, well, that's not a whole lot of money until you think about the median income in Tucson is around $45,000. The median price of a home right now is around $200,000. So it kind of gives you an idea of what you're up against. But we simply don't have enough inventory for the current demand. I do think that's going to change. I've actually thought things were going to slow down a while ago. When interest rates start to go up in earnest, we're still near historic lows. I think when that happens, we're going to start to flatline.
So where do you see the future of real estate and real estate agents? We know there's a lot of disruptors, maybe not so many here in Tucson, but there's a lot of different models coming out. People say you don't want to be Uberized. I don't really like to use that, but there's a lot of tech companies trying to make disruption, and maybe cutting down commissions or doing all kinds of different tactics just to try to get a hold on the real estate. So where do you see it going in the future?
Things will change. I mean, that's the only constant I would count on in real estate, but that's true for a lot of industries.
Sure.
Let's take Expedia. Go back a few years, they literally wrote out travel agents. That's not even an industry anymore. And they did that. Technology did that. The reason I'm not too worried about it is, again, my wife's got a real job, so I don't care. But the other reason I don't care, I'm not worried about it, is because people are still going to need that representation. Now, back east, I can't even write a contract back east. Only an attorney can. So we actually have a lot of power here in Arizona, and that's another reason why I kind of wish the bar for entry was maybe raised a little bit, more education. Right now, all you need really is 90 hours in a class, and away you go. I do wish that there was more education. Just the other day, someone said that there's too many agents in Tucson, and I laugh because we've got about 6,000, but that number is way higher, like in Phoenix and Scottsdale. And that's going to change. So to answer your question too, Zillow, let's take them for an example. In Phoenix, they're actually test marketing right now, buy it now button. You interested in this property for sale by owner? Buy it now. I would argue you still need representation. For any buyer, whether it's with me or anyone, the very first thing they should do is find a buyer's agent who specializes in that area, who's experienced, he or she knows what they're doing. Once you do that, start that relationship. It doesn't cost anything. And then go get pre-approved with a local lender. And the reason why that's so important is we talked about the purchase contract changing. Part of you actually need a signed pre-qual to even make your offer. And so it's not judging whether the buyers are good enough or not. That's not really it. It's more about if you're going to take a road trip, you want to make sure there's gas in the vehicle.
Sure.
And that's what the pre-qual really does. Otherwise, we make an offer to the seller. Why would the seller want to tie up their property when we know there's not enough inventory? There's someone else just biting at the bit to maybe make another offer. Why would we want to tie it up with someone who's unqualified?
Right.
And I know that was nowhere near the beginning of that question. I kind of went off on a tangent.
No. But, definitely good things to know for sure and to consider, as things become more easier, you may need to think about, that representation, somebody that's there to, as that fiduciary to help facilitate the transaction, make sure you're not getting into something that you don't necessarily have the expertise around, because obviously you obviously are a wealth of knowledge around real estate and the transaction, and for somebody that can spit out the fiduciary responsibilities like that, that's pretty impressive.
Because they're that important. I mean, like I said, I know I come off as a Boy Scout, but it's that important. It really is. And I think I'm fortunate enough that people seem to realize that and they appreciate that, the clients I work with. But that representation, that will never change. And so I think part of it too, like millennials are not buying like they're supposed to. That's one of the buyers who haven't, and I don't blame them for a couple of reasons. One, they want it easy. They like to stream things, no commitment. Right, but more importantly, they just watch their mom and dad, the baby boomer, who had the American dream of buying and owning their home. They watched them pay their mortgage and then got their backs broken when the market collapsed.
Right.
And some of them still haven't come out under it. And they're like, why would I ever want that? Right. They don't understand over the whole big picture, real estate as your primary residence is one of the better investments a person can make, but buying a house is not just an investment, it's your home. And that's the other thing I try and educate my clients. That's like, you're not trying to buy Apple stock at the 52-week low. You're not trying to time the market. You're buying your home. And I think that's real important to keep in mind as well.
Right. Awesome. Well, this has been very informational and a lot of great pieces of how to run your business, the Jerry Guire approach, and how you run your business without a website and calling and being very, very successful. So if there's an agent watching or maybe a home seller here in the Tucson area that want to pick your brain or get a hold of you somehow, how does somebody get?
If they're looking to buy or sell, give me a call, 520-471-6900. If you have time, I've got a website. I do have a profile on Zillow.com. I have over 240 reviews.
Oh, wow.
And 5 stars. And today's society, there's so many things that could go wrong in a transaction. And for people to take the time to write that, it speaks volumes of what people could expect if they wanted to work with me.
Right. Awesome, Spirit. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join me here on Real Estate Pros.
Thanks for having me.
And we will see you guys on the next episode. For more information on hosting your own Facebook live show just like this one, message Lister Pros directly on Facebook, and we will see you guys on the next episode.